and you please join for the Q&A session, ma'am. Yeah,
I'll do that.
Ria, you have to make me the host again. Then only I'll be able to play the video.
Ma'am, I can play the recording if there's a issue. Huh? I can even
I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
Okay. So because they have to enable me, then only I can play. Or you can do it for ma'am also. Ma'am also. Fawzia ma'am, if you do it, ma'am will also play. Okay, you have done me. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. In fact, heartiest congratulations to all the young members who have been part of this month-long training program. It clearly shows your dedication towards protection of environment and towards sustainability and being green. So allow me to share my screen, and I would briefly take you through the knowledge and skills which are required for green jobs. I would like to thank the Climate Reality Project India and Rekhaji for giving me this opportunity. So we have Code Red for Humanity. It's a bigger crisis than COVID. We have just come out of COP26, and where countries all over the world came together to take on again, pledges which perhaps we have not been able to achieve. At the same time, we have the IPCC 6th assessment report, which clearly says that unless there are immediate, rapid and large-scale reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, stabilizing our climate will be beyond reach. We have got a very brief window. We are saying by 2030, we want to really reduce our emissions by 50%. Climate change paths of destruction are obvious, visible. They are staring at us. While we are talking, we have floods going on in Assam. They are going to become stronger and more catastrophic. We have cyclones which are hitting our coastal areas. We have got a huge coastline in India. It's almost 7,500 kilometers. We have more severe wildfires, droughts which are there. And then the diseases, dengue, malaria, they are also on the increase. And of course, this all results in economic and environmental disruption. So LinkedIn actually carried out a study, and in that study, they said that green skills are a golden opportunity. And the Vice President, Head of Global Public Policy and Economic Graph team said that climate change is a threat multiplier, and solving it needs to be a skills multiplier. Now is the time for all stakeholders to come together to build the supply of green skills and talent needed to meet the growing global demand. The same Global Green Skills Report 2022, and in case any of you have interest in it, you can Google it and it's available online. It says that the share of green talent is in the workforce is about 38%. The growth rate is about 38%, and it has increased from 9.6% in 2015 to 13.3% in 2022. In the past year, 10% of the job posting requiring skills have explicitly required at least one green skill. And workers are increasingly skilling in green and transitioning into green and greening jobs, driving positive net transitions into these jobs. Now, the problem here is, again, by greening, and most of the discussions have been around reducing carbon emissions. So you would see that most of the discussions are around shifting to renewable sources of energy, or how we can reduce emissions. But somewhere in this rush towards reducing emissions, we are missing out on other aspects also. So the greening of skills is not just about energy transition, but it's also about other things that you can see here, whether it's education, health, water crisis, eutrophication, poverty, biodiversity, air pollution. So there are a large number of areas where we need to do greening while we are looking at carbon emissions. I would say even we need to focus at everything around all the sustainable development Development, 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So what is green skills? Green skills are those skills needed to adapt processes, services, and products to climate change and the environmental regulations and requirements related to it. They include the knowledge, abilities, values, and attitudes needed to live in, develop, and support a sustainable and resource-efficient society. So when we look at greening skills, so green skills are not about technical alone. So technical skills are definitely important in achieving greening of jobs, or in achieving in addressing climate change. Technical competencies are definitely important, including artificial intelligence, big data. Those are the upcoming skills which are definitely required, but that's not all, because climate change is not just limited to a technical problem. It's an interdisciplinary problem, and other skills, whether it's socio-economic skills which are there, will also be equally important. So also we have been emphasizing a lot on focus on circular economy. So where we are looking at the entire value chain and the life after the productive period of any equipment or any infrastructure. How is it going to come back into the system and not end up in our landfills, which is today a big threat in terms of managing waste and the pollution associated with different kinds of waste that we are generating. So I'm sure all of you would be now hearing about ESG, for instance. So corporates, industries are under immense pressure to comply to environmental, social, and corporate governance. So they have been investing immensely in all these three sectors. So when it comes to environmental, whether they're carbon footprint, their water footprint, their air pollution footprint, I think they are all being pushed into being more conscious about that. Likewise, when it comes to social well-being, also, like equal opportunity, health and safety, human rights, customer and product responsibility, child labor. So as I said, it's not just about carbon, it's just not about reducing emissions, but also developing skills which are social. So there is opportunity not just for engineers, but there is opportunity for students who are pursuing anthropology, students who are pursuing geography, social sciences, political science. I think governance is another very big area where business ethics, compliance becomes very important, executive compensation, shareholder democracy. So even governance is quite an important area when it comes to running businesses. Let me tell you that finance companies are now being very particular about ESG audits prior to funding organizations. So today, most of the corporates, ESG or environmental and social responsibility no longer remains part of CSR, the corporate social responsibility, but now it has become a major boardroom topic where directors of the companies are seriously working towards hiring people on environmental, social, and corporate governance. They have departments on production, manufacturing, sales, marketing, purchase. So now there is a separate department on ESG as well. So I'll just quickly take you, because we're talking about knowledge and skill development for green jobs. So I will give you a little case study of TERI School of Advanced Studies from where I am coming. So this institute, a deemed university, was set up in 1998. It's an offshoot of TERI, which has almost now 5 decades of experience in environment and sustainability. TERI School of Advanced Studies is today in its 25th year of operation, and our focus is exclusively on environment and sustainability. We are perhaps the pioneers in this, and the only university in India who are offering this. We have four departments: policy and management studies, regional water studies, natural and applied science, and sustainable engineering. So we operate from a green campus, and most of the features which are around green campus is there. The programs that we offer are around geoinformatics, environmental studies, climate science and policy, biotechnology, economics, water science and governance, public policy and sustainable development, sustainability management, renewable energy, and urban development management, and many like that. all our programs, we have tried to link them to the 17 sustainable goals. This mapping we did in 2016, and our programs are directly or indirectly linked to the Sustainable Development Goals. So they are all interdisciplinary in nature. So if you look at our programs, you will see, so from this you can make out what are the skills which are required. For instance, a student who is pursuing MTech Water Resources Engineering and Management would be looking at the technological side, where they look at geoinformatics, water quality and pollution. They look at water and sanitation design. They work on optimization, modeling, but at the same time, they are also asked to take up social and behavioral courses like water conflict resolution and management, and courses around governance, water policy, laws, regulation, river basin watershed and wetland management, water rights, gender and equity, and economic courses like cost benefit analysis, water audit, how do you go about doing it, market-based instruments, because that's something which are very important when it comes to controlling our natural resources. Our students, our recruiters are plenty. So as I said, all organizations today are looking for students with green skills. I would strongly recommend all of you to join this forum. This is a green forum, which has been actually started by a Green Growth Knowledge Partnership in collaboration with Global Green Growth Institute, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, United Nations Environment Program, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, and the World Bank Group, and many other organizations which have come together. If you have a chance to visit this, you will see that this is a discussion forum where a large number of discussions around green and green skills is happening. But this also has a section on opportunities, where opportunities on green jobs are also being posted. It's pretty new. It started very recently. But along with this, you can also be part of Sustainable Development Solutions Network, higher education sustainability initiative, and many such networks which are there, which perhaps would give you an insight into green jobs. So with that, I would like to thank you, and I would like to thank Climate Reality for this. I'm open to questions. Thank you.
So thank you, ma'am, for sharing that. You have any other words you want to say to my students? Last one, you can do that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. I think thanks for bringing it as well. Basically, the future lies in greening. As we said, by 2030, we are looking at a very little window that we have to really solve the wicked problems that are there around us. So schools, because I see most of the students have joined some schools, so let sustainability be a way of life, rather than it being a subject or embedded into a subject, which is of course important, because every subject can actually have a sustainability or green dimension. But alongside, let us try and make it a way of life, where our infrastructure, where governance, everything actually sort of speaks around sustainability. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for joining. So hope all the kids are learning from what ma'am has said, all the opportunities, and Green Forum. I believe that you all can join and check on net, the Green Forum. Ma'am, if you can put the link, they can join that.
Surely, I'll do it in the chat.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. So our next speaker is architect Priyanka Mishra. She's an architect, urban planner, and assistant professor in the School of Architecture and Planning, KIIT, deemed to be University Bhubaneswar. She is presently pursuing PhD in environmental changes in urban fringe area due to urban sprawl from KIIT School of Rural Management. She has also worked in Delhi Development Authority and H&UD Department of Odisha for Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana project prior to joining the esteemed KIIT University. Madam has a keen interest into study human behavior and looking at architecture and urban planning from the perspective of environmental psychology. She's also a Reiki Grandmaster Siddha healer for more than 25 years. Let's hear it from her. Ma'am, the stage is yours.
Namaste. Thank you so much. Before we start, let me recite a small verse. Akhanda mandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam tatpadam darshitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. So let's begin this wonderful journey with a small recital for all gurus in the universe and beyond. This is a very, very important discussion going on today because students play a very important role in any field when they are in the student life as well as when they are completing the student life and entering into a very different professional field where they have to make their own way. So once they begin their journey of green related to their environment, then it's quite easy for them to carry on. So this is what the fundamental is in KIIT. Let me share a small video. Ma'am, can I share the screen? Please allow me to share the screen.
Yes, I think Dia can do it.
So I'll just, in the meantime, I'll just share a small story. Since I'm into healing for a long time, almost 25 to 30 years. So when we started this journey of healing, our teacher, he first said, when you are healing, you give healing to Mother Earth, because when you are Mother Earth is safe, then she's the best one to keep you safe too. Gradually, we realized this concept as we grew up, and we always try to heal Mother Earth before we go for any healing. Let me share the screen.
Yes, ma'am, you'll be able to.
Thank you. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it's visible.
So I am assistant professor in KIIT, deemed to be university. We can go through a small video.
Founded by visionary social activist and educationist Dr. Samanta.
Is it audible?
Yes, ma'am, it's audible.
KIIT University accommodates 20 sprawling Wi-Fi campus, each of which has been named after famous rivers in India. The aesthetically manicured landscape is a blend of modernity and tradition, serving an ideal space for bringing up enlightened scholars. KIIT Green, one of the initiatives of the university, strives to control environmental pollution and create a healthy ambience for the students. In an attempt to make the campus completely vehicle-free, the university has prohibited the use of two-wheelers, both by staff and students in the first phase. An alternative transport arrangement has been put in place after that. Besides, the other environmental friendly initiatives of KIIT Green includes rainwater harvesting, water management, sewerage treatment, biogas, solar energy, among others. It also has a beautiful sculpture garden conceptualized by a nationally acclaimed sculptor. The garden, situated at the KIIT School of Management, uses only locally available stones, which are deftly cut into geometrical patterns and are highlighted by colorful lights and soft music. Built amidst the grandeur of Temple City of Bhubaneswar, KIIT also uniquely houses an art gallery and a rose garden, which gives students a rightful break from the classroom rigor. There is a spacious temple complex situated near the campus, dedicated to 16 major deities, including Lord Jagannath at the epicenter. The university has its Student Activities Center, which aims to gather all students under one roof with an objective of establishing a common ground for extracurricular activities. The university also has canteen facilities, including 25 food courts and 3 in-and-outs that serve a wide range of national and international dishes. In sports sector, the university has 16 sports complex, 8 swimming pools, gymnasium, BCCI approved kids stadium, an international standard hockey stadium, and an Olympic-sized swimming pool for all its students. Providing the best possible academic and non-academic grooming and empowerment which enable a student to become a global citizen, KIIT University today has carved a niche as one of the most prestigious universities in the world.
So this was a very green campus, and lots of sustainable development practices are being used in the campus. So if we go for the evolution of KIIT, it is just a very new school which was established in 1992, and with the commitment to teaching excellence led to the grant of university status under Section 3 of UGC Act 1956 by the Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India in 2004, within only 7 years of its inception. So because of that, it holds the Limca record for its accomplishment. And KIIT is accredited by IIT NBA with A grade by NAC and is approved by UGC, AICTE, MCI, DCI, BCI, and INC. The deemed to be university is ranked 1 by Times Higher Education World University 2022 for deemed university in Orissa and Eastern India. It boasts of having 23 schools of study and affiliated colleges under that offer UG, PG, and PhD courses as well to students across biotechnology, management, and law. So we can see the rankings. KIIT has been ranked number 1 by ARIIA, and by the Times the World University Ranking, it is 8th in reduced inequalities as per Times Higher Education Impact Rankings, and 23rd rank in overall category with 12th rank in the general engineering category. And it has been ranked 21 among all public and private universities under NIRF and ranked 10 among top 10 law schools in India. Plus it is the first India's first QS 5 stars rated university in 2021, getting all the 5 stars in all categories under the rating system. These are other accreditations obtained by KIIT by various criteria. And the main schools under KIIT universities are engineering and School of Yoga, because yoga is a very important part for all over development of the students. So students are given a good background of yoga and spiritualism also. Then we have electrical and engineering, computer applications, chemical technology, mechanical engineering, computer engineering, architecture and planning, biotechnology, public health, fashion technology, law, film and media sciences, mass communication, applied sciences, rural management, and School of Management. And above all, we have a school, KISS, which is the Kids School of Social Sciences, and which houses around 30,000 tribal students, and those students are given education and accommodation free of cost. And that is one of the major accomplishments of KIIT. And the main objective of KIIT is to promote quality education to support undergraduate, postgraduate, and doctorate students, to build potential strength and capacity of individual students in all dimensions, to increase the impact of research throughout the country and globe, to build supportive environment to expand partnership for innovation. So for this, we have all the schools which are doing a great job in climate and environment, all aspects of environment, to make the campus green, to initiate the education and inculcate the feeling of the environment, to protect the environment in the students, so that when they go, they are already ready to get the green jobs all over the globe. So there are lots and lots of things to discuss, but since the time is short, I have taken case studies of 3 schools. One is School of Electrical Engineering. So the main open electives which deal with the green courses are the electrical circuits analysis, renewable energy sources, solar power technology, principles of energy conversion, electric hazards and safety. So apart from the normal curriculum, the electives are being added so that the students can opt for the subjects which they wish to. There are multiple electives, and we have linear control systems, smart illumination technology, energy conservation techniques, electrical instrumentation, energy audit and management. So all these electives, they help the students to get a better insight how they can conserve energy, how can they go to model, formulate various models to apply different control techniques, and what are the ways they can conserve the energy or go for energy management, save energy, and do it very methodologically. Then there are very much options open for multidisciplinary research, which include the machine and power electronics, solar PV, electric vehicles, smart grid systems, energy saving or power quality, efficient energy storage system, AI in electrical energy. So we are going for interdisciplinary research projects with faculty and students, so that students get more insight into various openings and various possibilities to go for more technological advancements. So like when we talk about machine and power electronics, initially the left side, these were the avenues open for them, but with the multidisciplinary prospects, when they are tied up with School of Electronics, Mechanical Engineering, Applied Sciences, they have many more avenues like machine learning, passive filter design, microelectronic circuits, thermal management, signal processing. All these can be included and make their research much wider. Similarly, when we talk about solar PV, initially the thrust area was towards the left, but now with the interdisciplinary research with School of Electronics, Applied Sciences, even computer sciences, they are ready to design the PV cells, machine learning and data analysis, antenna and satellite communication, MPPT controller and AI applications. And students are doing wonders in their research areas from their student life itself. Then when we talk about electric vehicles, again, it was the scope was limited when it was restricted to the electrical engineering only. But again, combining with other computer sciences and applied sciences, the students are going for IoT and control circuit design, communication system, grid connected charging, dynamic charging, investigation of wide band gap materials. So when we talk about School of Civil Engineering, green courses that are open are for disaster management, coastal management, global warming and climate change, fundamentals of project, basic transportation engineering, construction materials and specifications, green buildings, environmental chemistry, bioremediation, tropical hydrology and water resources, fundamentals of RCC structure, water resource management, And we have several online courses which include construction planning and management, pavement analysis and designs, traffic engineering and transportation planning, and the fluid mechanics. So with these courses, the students are able to get a very good insight into various parameters of environment, and they are they are coming up with very novel ideas. They are taking up projects, they are going for conferences, publishing their articles in international journals, and they are even working with the faculty who are taking up projects from ICSSR and various organizations, and they are really come up with very good prospects. So when civil engineering is again combined, it gives various courses like fundamentals of structural analysis and design, soil mechanics, hydraulics and water resources engineering, civil engineering. They have very good civil engineering laboratories. Then we have water resources and development management, where GIS, the knowledge of GIS is also imparted. And we have a separate remote sensing and GIS section to study water resources. And there is environmental impact assessment of water resources projects are being taken. Then gender and legal aspects in water resources, and very good laboratories for working out the for GIS and for other chemical tests and processing. Then when we talk about the multidisciplinary research prospects with disciplines like structural engineering, we are coming with alternative building materials, static and dynamic analysis of structures, composite nanostructures. So when the students are researching with faculties and students of mechanical engineering, architecture, and applied sciences, computer sciences, they are coming up with very novel research proposals which are very interesting, and they are also going for patents in various fields with this research. Then transportation engineering, environmental engineering, water resources, geotechnical engineering, construction management. We also have various departments and various activity centers for students where they are we have a water resource department where lots of studies are going on the quality and quantity of water throughout Bhubaneswar and different areas, and the changes in them due to the urban sprawl. Then again, where there are research groups which are taking care of almost all the sustainable development goals. So SDGs are very important criteria, they are taken into account. And these, you can see some of the projects that have been taken up. And again, there is lots of consultancy thrust areas like structural design and wetting, foundation design, concrete technology, transportation and traffic engineering, hydrological analysis, waste management and sanitation, air and water quality monitoring and control, where they can go for individual consultancy or in a institutional or departmental consultancy. Then these are the pictures of few projects the students have taken up with the faculty. And when we talk about School of Architecture and Planning, again, we are always in the forefront to keep technology up and abreast with the latest trends, use it to make the informed decisions through planning, design, and implementation. So here, natural, social, built environment, students are given all types of education to understand these issues and to come up with solutions through appropriate skills of design, engineering services, technology, behavioral studies, and to recognize the challenges of environmental depletion and arm themselves with the right approach to protect, nurture, and restore the damage through sustainable principles. So they are always included throughout. They are to be aware of the resources and the uses, to recognize the deep-rooted heritage of human civilization, and be an ambassador of historic preservation and take the cultural values to a new level, because history is very important. Conservation is a very important aspect again of green, and to be a champion for social good and inclusiveness and engage themselves with ethical practices. Then there is continuous participation of professionals and industry experts from core and applied areas. As you can see, the main green courses which are offered are Southeast Vernacular Architecture, because what we feel is not to go in the rat race of copying others or copying the West. So being in the East, and the East India is holding such a precious style of architecture. So that is embedded in the curriculum, so that students have a feel of the Southeast vernacular architecture and the innovations in building materials, the innovations in concrete technology, along with then we have climatology and environmental psychology is also very important, because once they understand the psychology behind whatever roles they are playing, then they become a better human and better professional as well. Then product design and interior design, they also take environment as a very important aspect, and all the building services. Then we have lots of social outreach and training programs, so that the students are aware of the woman-friendly construction environment. Then promotion of traditional art and aesthetics in urban forms, skill development in masonry, carpentry, plumbing, and cost-effective rural and urban housing design support. And all these are taking environment as a very major parameter while going for the study as well as for the design. Then there are lots of training sessions on energy conservation and sustainability, green building, heritage preservation, universal design, disaster resistant structure, behavioral studies, environmental sensitive design. Then they are placed, students are placed in have a very good placement. One of the students has joined the Auroville Earth Center, and one has cleared the SSC exam and is now a lieutenant in Indian Army, who is in charge of design and civil activities in the defense forces. And these are other students who have joined. One has joined TERI, one has joined CEP University, and some have joined in Australia and doing the biodigital architecture. And students have got good positions in different MNCs, top MNCs. And we are holding lots of webinars for the students. One was recently held, organized with our climate change project, and Rekha ma'am was one of the speakers. And we had a very good insight of so many people from different backgrounds who spoke on the environment sustainability and climate change. Then we have a tie-up with ASSOCHAM Green Building Council and with IGBC, and the students chapter was launched with IGBC, and the students are being accredited with the IGBC chapter. Then there are patents, like one of the faculty has made a patent. He has prepared the bricks, bio bricks made from agro waste, and he was awarded as Social Innovator Award by National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj. Then these are few works of the students, which are live projects that they take during their curriculum. Like this was a Chintamanishwar temple and its pond, which is in a very dilapidated condition, and is a very ancient structure which can be revised, which can be conserved for future. So this is the way they have studied the evolution of the tank. They have done their site analysis, and the conceptual plans are made for the area with the sections and detailings. And this is another research consultancy project for INTAC, which was taken for a weaver's village. The students had studied the architectural features of the weaving village and came up with the proposals to conserve the village and get better outputs from the weavers. Then this was another consultancy projects taken up by the faculty and the students, which was from the Ministry of Rural. We have developed development plans for 2 villages in the urban fringes of Bhubaneswar, and it was very much appreciated by the ministry. So these are few of the pictures. Then this is another Council of Architecture Heritage Awards, which was a student achievement. And this was another proposal given by 3 of our students, and for architecture for housing in the flood prone areas. And this was also selected for the best design competition. So we have a wide road ahead, long road ahead. And the day we start educating the students with more and more environmental related education, I think we can pave a very good way for the future, and it won't be difficult to achieve the goals. It will be very easy for all of us to live in a very peaceful and very clean and green environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. So thanks for sharing the green campus. We can see that you had a green campus, and with the trees and everything, and all sustainable measures you had in your college. So thanks for sharing that. And thanks for sharing all the courses, research prospects, outreach program offered by KIIT, and the extensive work your students are doing in restoring the temple, villages, and the ponds. So I think our audience, young audience, can take a pick from all the courses offered by KIIT. I think students, you are listening now. So before we move on, my next question, second question from the second session is Mr. Nikhil Kamath talked about the effective communication. In that, he had given an example of something on which his all talk was based. What was that? So I'm putting that question in your chat section so that you can answer, but don't answer it there, because that will be a help to your fellow ones, those who are there, and they will write those answers and send me. But by 6 o'clock today, you have to send me all 5 answers so that we can send you the books. The 5 winners would get the books. You can send your address, your school address, and your name. So inviting our next panelist, it is a pleasure to invite our next panelist for today, Dr. Govind Singh. Dr. Govind Singh is an Associate Professor of Environmental Studies, Assistant Dean of Academic Affairs at the Jindal School of Environment and Sustainability, OP Jindal Global University, India. He has previously taught at Indraprastha College for Women, Miranda House, Delhi College of Arts and Commerce, Delhi School of Journalism, and Cluster Innovation Center, University of Delhi. Dr. Govind Singh is also the co-founder of Delhi Green non-profit environmental organization. I think my all students, those who are here, they can join Delhi Greens. I think sure they can join it. So they can see the kind of work the Delhi Greens is doing, which sir has set up in 2017 with a vision of achieving environmental harmony and sustainable development. Dr. Govind Singh obtained his PhD degree in environmental studies from the University of Delhi. Over to you, sir.
So good afternoon to all of you. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
All right. So first and foremost, thank you for organizing this very interesting and meaningful event. I'm looking at the number of students who joined in from the schools. It goes to 200 plus, and I can't tell you how happy it feels to look at that number, that there are students out there, 200 plus, like I said, who are listening to us right now, but who are more concerned about making a green career for themselves, who are more concerned about the planet, who are perhaps already aware of what is happening to the planet, and therefore they are, they want to learn about the green jobs. They want to understand what it means to, participate in a green job. How should they be prepared for that? So that's something which is really heartening. Like I said, thank you for that. Thanks to the Climate Reality Project for organizing this and putting this together. I can briefly share with my own background. Like I said, I've been associated with the Climate Reality Project way before I think these aspects began. As one of the first participants to the Climate Project India initiative that was led by Al Gore and Dr. R.K. Pachauri. I remember I go back 14 years, 2008, I believe, March of 2008, when Al Gore was here in New Delhi, and he trained some 80 young people, 80 people of all ages, to pass on the message of climate communication, that how every young person, every person in the country needs to be made aware of what's happening to the climate and what he or she can do to contribute to ensure that we can prevent climate change. So that's where I go back. I also have a long history with Rekha ma'am here. So I have learned a lot from her. Good experience that I've gained from her. So I've seen her do so much to reach out to young students, train them, inspire them for taking climate action, for ensuring that they teach themselves well. And that, again, like I said, is very heartening. So that is the note I thought I'd like to begin with. I teach environmental studies at OP Jindal Global University, which is located just outside of Delhi in Sonipat in Haryana. One question that we often get from students is, why not Delhi? Why just outside of Delhi? And an answer that I'd like to give them immediately is, if you go to Delhi today and you measure the air pollution of Delhi, it's not a good place for students to be there. So if you have an opportunity to set up a new university, it's a relatively new university, then why not in the NCR, just outside of the city, where the air is clean, where you have green farms all around you, you have forest. If you walk a few distance, you can enjoy all that here, which is what we offer here at OP Jindal Global University, which is India's #1 private university, as you may be aware, and has taken the lead in initiating, which is something I take great pride in, the first undergraduate program on environmental studies in India, right? So of course, this can be debated, but I say environmental studies and I don't say environmental science. And the difference is huge. Something else that we've done here, because this is something that comes from my own working, I can again go back to my own school days. I think I can see a lot of students, so they'll be interested to perhaps learn about this. Maybe some of them can also relate to it. But when I finished class 10th, and I was asked to choose various subjects for my class 11th. And in our country at that point in time, we live in silos. I think we still do. So I was supposed to take either sciences or humanities, arts, as it was called back then, or commerce, right? So I had these three choices, and I looked at the subjects offered, and I said, this is not what I want to do, because in my school, I had a great teacher who taught me a lot about environment, and I wanted to be an environmentalist. So I looked at the courses and I said, well, sciences, yes, will give me the knowledge that I need, but not holistically, because I also want to study environmental history. I also want to study environmental economics. I want to use the tools of economics to protect the environment. So how will that help me in that? So I went back home. I've always done what I think needs to be done, is the best thing to do for myself. So I made a list of courses that I want to study in class 11th. Right? And I made a list, I still remember. It was English, which we had to study as a subject, as a language. But I also chose biology, because I thought biology has ecology, and that's what links closest to environmental studies. The next subject I chose was geography, because I thought geography is something where I study soil, I study clouds, I talk about the climate system and so on. Economics, again, like I said, was close to my heart. I wanted to use economics as a tool that I do right now. In a course that I teach, which is called ecological economics. How can we link both these courses, because they're inherently linked? And the fifth subject that I chose for myself back then was history, because history is something I really take great interest in. The former speaker just mentioned that it's very important to be rooted in history. I love the history of India. I love how it goes back to 2000 years, the Vedas. But even beyond that, 5,000 years back to the Harappan civilization, which we don't even know was what. We are still learning about them today. So that's something I thought I would want to do. So next day I went to school. I met my class teacher and I said, these are my subjects. So tell me, where does it fit? Should I get into sciences? Should I get into social sciences? Or should I get into economics? And she couldn't help it. She said, this doesn't make any sense. So she had to involve the principal. which, as you can imagine, students here will agree and understand is not a very pleasant thing to do always. So we had the principal involved, and then he said, look, I understand where you're going, but the current system does not allow this to happen. So we need to put you in some sort of, one of these kind of systems that exist. Thankfully, it's changed now. We have the new education policy. Things are changing, thankfully. But back then, I had to then settle down for something called biology, right? And of course, the subjects that came along with it, which were physics, chemistry, mathematics, and so on. So I became a science student. But the environmentalist in me was still there active. So I finished my school and I opted for a bachelor's in botany, which is plant sciences. Again, with the same logic that this comes closest to environmental studies, because you study ecology, you study plants. Well, to some extent, you also study animals when they interact with plants. And that is what got me interested. But it was still not environmental studies, right? So that's something that kept irking me. And then finally, when I reached third year of my bachelor's in botany, it was just my good luck that the systems changed, and the University of Delhi launched a new course. It was called an MA/MSc in Environmental Studies. So it's not an MA, it's not an MSc, it's an interdisciplinary program on environmental studies. So I finished that. I then subsequently also completed my PhD in environmental studies from the same school. But what was left in my mind, the concern that was left in my mind was that there will be students after me who would want to pursue an undergraduate degree in environmental studies. So what about them? What can now that I have the PhD, now that I have, I can go and start courses, I can talk to universities, can I do something to, help that, to ensure that this can be worked out? And of course, for almost 6 or 8 years later, I kept on working, speaking to universities, to the University of Delhi, to other universities. And after a long time, some things worked out, right? I think the University of Delhi is about to start its own undergraduate program in environmental studies. But in 2020, when the pandemic struck, unfortunately, I heard that at OP Jindal Global University, there was a professor from Stanford who had come down here with the same vision. He was looking to launch an undergraduate program in environmental studies, right? A BA in environmental studies is what we call it. And it was music to my ears, as you can imagine. I quickly wrote to him. I said, look, this is something which is very interesting. I have been wanting to do this. Congratulations. That's all that I said. He perhaps read between the lines. He understood what I was saying. He said, why don't you come and join me in doing this? Because I can see that, you understand what I'm doing. And well, that was it. I quickly packed my bags from Delhi, moved to Sonipat, and I said, this is what I want to do. This has to work because this is what the world and the country needs today. An undergraduate program in environmental studies for school students who now understand that there's a huge crisis out there. Thanks to the internet, the school students today also understand that it's not the future of the policymakers, of the elders, which is at stake, but it's their own future which is at stake. There are school students now who write to me on a regular basis, and they ask very difficult questions. Sometimes I don't have answers for those questions, but I'm so happy that these questions are coming forward. Right? For example, I gave a talk on traditional knowledge and how we can use water resource management and use that to prevent floods in Assam, in other places, including Bihar. And now when there are huge floods in Assam, unfortunately, I'm getting mails from students saying, so what are you doing about that? Right? Can we do something about that? Why don't you come here and we can actually initiate some discussions around that, talk to the government, talk to whoever, because this is upsetting. My house has been taken away from me. And more of this is now happening around us, unfortunately. So like I said, therefore, I'm very happy to see students, lots of them school students who are aware that they need to do something to ensure that they are able to protect their own future, right? The topic here says planet needs green jobs. The topic that I proposed was make a career while saving the planet. I have no hesitation in sharing that it's not about saving the planet. It's about saving human beings, saving all of us. That's what we're doing here. The reason why we are talking, the reason why we are initiating these courses, these programs, is because we now understand, thanks to the young people out there, that it's our future which is at stake. The planet will still shake up, they'll probably shake up a little bit things here and there and get back to where it was. It's us, the human civilization, which is at stake, which is why we need to look at these courses. So one more thing I can talk about here, because like I said, I had faced a huge problem when, kind of taking a subject in school. So therefore, when we were making the eligibility criteria, what should a student have when a student pursues a BA in environmental studies, we said a student should be a good student. That's all. We cannot restrict a student just based on the subject saying, he didn't have maths or she doesn't have biology. Any student who is a good student, right, who's cleared class 12th, it doesn't matter what subjects there are, can apply and join us here for pursuing an undergraduate program in environmental studies, right? That's something we thought needs to be done. Again, the idea was that when there's too much air pollution, when the islands are sinking, the coastal cities are sinking because of climate change, right? People, the water will not ask, did you have biology in school before it'll impact you. So therefore, young people must have access to knowledge, to resources, to a degree program that enables them to protect their future. And that is something, that's the motivation behind which we thought this is something that needs to be done. Climate change, I can see a lot of questions in the question answer panel session. With the floods that are happening right now with all various aspects. So climate change is here to stay. When I was in school, we were told it'll happen, say 100 years down the line, right? Then that's when the impacts will be felt. Today, we know the impacts are already here just 25 years later, right? So we know that the climate change is impacting us right now, and that's only one aspect of the problem. Human beings have also not, kind of controlled their behavior, our lifestyles, and we are also continuously degrading the environment. So there's a huge scope to understand what does it mean to have a sustainable livelihood and a sustainable lifestyle, right? So therefore, looking at all these topics that I'm mentioning, each of these topics forms a subject, forms a prospect, forms a career scope in itself, because there is just so much that needs to be done today, right? I mean, there's a huge crisis out there. And the more we are able to do to protect ourselves, the better, right? So I can just leave you with three kind of, I would say, directions or three directions of thoughts in terms of where to look for green jobs. Let's say if you pursue a bachelor's in environmental studies, or you go beyond that. One, of course, like I said, make a career while saving the planet. So you can actually join large number of non-profit organizations that exist around the country and the world, which are now looking for people who, there's a dearth of people, they keep saying. And I say, but there are so many people in the country. How can there be dearth of people to work on green jobs? So they tell me it's not that there's dearth of people per se, there's dearth of trained professionals, trained people who've, studied environmental studies, who understand what is urban water management, who understand what does EIA mean and how is it implemented, how is it used as a tool for protecting the environment, who understand ecology and conservation in terms of wildlife. So there's a dearth of such people. So therefore, it's up to you to enable yourself to pursue the right courses. And there's a huge job sector waiting for you outside. So UN is another agency, the United Nations, huge scope there, right? So many projects are coming up right now. And I again say there's a dearth of people, which again doesn't mean people per se, that so many people are aware in our country and the world. It means dearth of people with the right skills and the right knowledge, which is exactly what you can do to yourself. It's a favor that you can do to yourself, but I can also tell you it's something that will give you great gains in the future, because that's the future right now. They're looking at, people are trying to find those trained professionals who can understand and address various environmental problems. A second direction that you must now keep in mind is with respect to eco-entrepreneurship, right? So there are many of us who say that, there is so much problems that are happening, and not everybody is doing something about it. So I joined a company, but the company is not doing enough. I joined a non-profit organization, even they are also not doing enough. There's a huge scope today to initiate entrepreneurship, set up NGOs, set up companies, set up non-profit companies in the direction of environmental protection, right? So there's a huge sector for green jobs. And if you play your cards right, like I say, if you pursue the right courses at the right age, which is exactly what you're in right now, you'll not only be able to take up green jobs in the near future, you'll also be able to give green jobs to others. And that's, kind of a big thing to say. So that's where we are headed. A third one, like I said, is maybe not important to all of you, but for the teachers among you, there's a huge scope of becoming a teacher, getting into the academic sector of environmental education as well. More and more universities, more and more colleges are now starting, they have to start it because there's a big demand. People are asking for it. So they're starting programs and courses on environmental studies, right? But there again, the same problem, there are not enough people, not enough trained professionals to teach these courses, these programs, right? So there's a huge lacuna, a huge gap that needs to be filled by young people like yourself who can train yourself, you can pursue the right courses, and 3 or 5 years later, you can actually become training, you can give training to others as well. Right? That's the kind of dearth of resources that we have today in the environment sector. So because I speak to the corporate sector on a regular basis, I speak to my students, I speak to non-profit organization professionals. So I can tell you there's a huge lacuna in the job market when it comes to green jobs. They're looking for trained young professionals. They're looking for all of you, the ones who are keen, who want to take this up and do something good for the planet, but also for yourself. Like I said, make a career while saving the planet. Right. So with that, I think I'll conclude. One last bit to add here. In 2020, we started a BA in Environmental Studies program at OP Jindal Global University. Our first batch will come out in the next year, in 2023. But we already have takers from the corporate sector, from the UN, who want to absorb these students. That's like I said, that's the kind of opportunities available in the green job sector. But our students don't want to do that because they want to pursue a master's after that. So we're saying, okay, that's entirely up to your decision, but there's a huge scope out there. And looking at that, we have now started from this year onwards, a BA/PSc in Sustainable Development, which again becomes India's first course, India's first undergraduate program in Sustainable Development with both a bachelor's, a BA and a BSc. Right? So therefore, for those of you who are interested into pursuing sustainable development, looking at sustainability career options, even that scope now becomes open for all of you. So with that, I think I hope I've not taken too much time. I'd conclude. And if there are any questions, I'm available now, but also later on through Rekha ma'am, you can always write to her and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
So we have one more panel discussion after that, sir. But I request all my students to put all the questions in QA section so that we can take it up.
Sure.
So thank you, sir, for sharing your journey and the learnings from each subject. You explain how geography can explain the clouds, you can explain the differences and everything, and how the correlation with. So I think, I hope also that the passionate students, they can relate with you and can join the undergraduate courses which are there, and you as being their mentor for environmental studies. So thank you so much, sir, and stay with us for the Q&A section.
Surely, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Students, my third question is from the third session. Who said, I am the solution and because I am the problem too? Which panelist said that, who said that I am the solution and I am the problem too? So you collect all the 5 questions or 5 answers, send it through your teacher to me. So thank you for being with me. So moving on, our next panelist or next speaker is Mr. Vishnu Dhanapal. Mr. Vishnu Dhanapal is a India country officer at Intake Education for the University of South Wales. He completed both his bachelor's and master's at the University of South Wales and worked in the UK for 4 years prior to joining Intake Education. He also possesses a wealth of experience both in industry and within academia as a lecturer. He has since helped multiple students take the step into studying in the UK. Currently, he is working to aid recruitment, building partnership and articulation programs, whilst also overseeing the general marketing and profile building of the universities in India. So over to you, sir.
Hello, thanks a lot, Rekha ma'am, for the warm welcome, as well as having me a part of this really distinguished panel of guests that have not just impressed probably the students that are around, but me as well. And I'm kind of starting to think, why didn't I think about a green job much earlier than today? But certainly, as I've been probing around to see some of the opportunities and some of the research that I've come across has been fantastic for me to kind of feel like, there is this bigger project that's more than just about ourselves, and kind of brings me to my point. When I was making this presentation, obviously my my designation does say country officer for University of South Wales. But this whole green project, is about being more than just ourselves, I suppose, right? So I thought I'm not gonna speak about the university. I'm gonna speak in a more generic sense about some of the ways we can achieve a more greener planet. Okay, so without wasting any more time, I'm just gonna crack on. Sorry, I'm having some technical glitches because of which you may not be able to see my presentation, but I'll try and relay as much as information as possible as I can. Okay, I have seen, ma'am, obviously this comes from my background, but also you students probably will be able to relate to this. People want to go settle abroad now. You know, a lot of the kids want to go settle abroad, and they feel like, yes, you're doing engineering, and a lot of the distinguished guests earlier spoke about engineering and ways that you can do your engineering and then get into green jobs, and I totally second that. When I did my engineering as well in electronics and telecommunication, but obviously I did not have perhaps the guest who spoke before me to give me some better insight, I suppose. So I went down a different route. But yes, if you want to settle abroad, why not think of it rather than just doing a job, do a greener job, be about more than just ourselves. So as I went to Europe and studied in the UK, like you mentioned earlier, I started to notice a much cleaner and greener environment. And it did get me thinking at the time, so why aren't we taking more steps to, go down this path? And this is kind of brought me, it's kind of brought this interest in me, and I'm glad I'm speaking here today about it. So one of the reasons why Europe is so good in providing a much cleaner environment and a greener environment is the macro environment and the policies in Europe itself. So Europe itself, or the European Union, is very, very, very stringent. It's probably one of the world leaders in creating a greener environment. So having an opportunity for students to go and actually study in the UK or in Europe, where they are able to experience this, the benefits of it, like I have done firsthand, would actually be a very, very good thing for them. Now, I am by no means slating some of the great projects that the guests have spoken just before me. But what I am trying to do is, it is nice to have an opportunity for you guys, if you do want to settle abroad or go abroad for your studies, to go have a look at these, have or experience these courses, experience the lifestyle of a more greener environment, and perhaps come back with that experience, and hope we can get there one day with help of these with these graduates. So in the Europe itself, Scandinavian countries have been kind of the world leaders or the gold standard in trying to achieve this greener environment. They have an 87% carbon-free energy production method, with 63% of it coming from absolutely renewable sources, which is a fantastic thing. And this kind of also highlights to us that Europe is going down that greener route, which means there will be jobs. And as we might all recognize that, as let's say, for example, some time ago, India really opened up to the tech giants, and suddenly we saw a boom of IT engineers and computer science, and Indians are probably number one in the world in terms of producing IT and computer science engineers. So that was guided by some of the policies India had at the time. Similarly, Europe now have this policy of greener environment, which will definitely lead us to greener jobs. I am going to now speak a little bit about some of the policies that Europe have come up with that will help this. Okay, I'm really sorry. I think it would have been much better if I was able to share my screen. So apologies for that. Anyway, I'm going to speak. Just try and listen to me for a little while. Okay, just a couple of days ago, actually, the members of the European Parliament, they have adopted a draft for a directive that should increase Europe's chances of achieving zero carbon emissions by 2050. Okay, so that is again a policy that Europe wants to get to. So that means there's going to be zero or no net carbon emissions, carbon gases or greenhouse gases by 2050. So to encourage this, what Europe have done is they've kind of incorporated this in their trade policies. So in case you're trading and you're trading with someone who's emitting some of these greenhouse gases, that will then get linked to your company as one of your emissions. So to avoid that, they've kind of promoted trading with companies that have zero emissions. And in case you are trading with companies that have higher carbon emissions, you're going to have to pay a carbon tax. So these kind of policies are now bringing in that change where companies are starting to think more effectively around investment into a zero carbon environment. So this is the kind of where I was getting to, is that as Europe, as countries, and I think Europe may be the leaders in this, but I'm pretty sure that all of us will follow at some point in time. So we're seeing with India as well. India's having really great, what do I say, a reduction in taxes if you're buying a EV car. So certainly I think we're all starting to follow and understand this trend of zero carbon emissions. But these policies that are being set will lead to more greener jobs. So I want to highlight some of the courses that you might be able to do in the UK that will lead you to these greener jobs. Okay, so many universities, I think a couple of weeks ago, one of my colleagues, Ila Belodi, spoke about some of the universities. And I want to just delve a little deeper to speak about some of the courses. Okay, so MSc in Environmental Management, an MSc in Sustainable Water Environments, an MSc in Conservation Ecology, an MSc in Environmental Humanities, an MSc in Environment, Heritage and Policy, an MSc in Environmental Management, which is waste, energy, or water, oil, or gas. So you could specialize in any of these. So again, ma'am, now these are really courses that can impact us positively in terms of your career. You can go into any of these streams. Now, let's say, for example, if I had to pick up the MSc Environmental Management about gas, that is kind of really fits into the policies that Europe are building. So you're able to then tap into those sort of jobs. So again, so if you're one of those aspirants who wants to go study abroad, live abroad, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to work for a tech giant. You can have these opportunities to work much more greener jobs. So I want to share one experience that is from my time at university. It's not necessarily from my university, but it is something I have seen. In the UK, University of Lancaster, they actually had this project where they'd collect all of these so big stores, like, let's say, for example, Star Bazaar in India or Reliance, whatever, their equivalents in the UK, they would have a lot of food wastage at the end of the day, stuff that was getting expired. So the university students came up with this great policy where they'd go pick up these items and have like a community fridge setup for people who are unable to afford things, are unable to, are not able to get that food in time. So go and set up these these community fridges, and students would be able to tap into this. People who are not as affluent would be able to tap into this. And this sort of created a community of sharing and being more mutually responsible with each other. Not just that, it is also nice to see that people are being more aware. Obviously, waste management is a big thing in trying to be more greener. We need to be able to manage our waste effectively. And this, rather than food, actually processed food that has already had a carbon footprint, rather than going to waste, is being actually consumed and is helping out people. So a fantastic project. Bits like this, I think, are really key. Like we always say, change starts within ourselves. So or change starts from us. So we've got to start picking up on small things that we can do to save the environment or to help the environment. So yes, we're really happy to see these kind of little initiatives. Moving on, I am really gonna wind up quickly, but I've got something that I came across, and I just wanted to read this out. So pardon me for being very wordy. Green jobs are jobs with a purpose. And this is one of the lines that really inspired me, okay, because these jobs have a direct positive impact on the planet, traditionally involving renewable energy, electric transport, energy efficiency, or nature conservation. But right now, as more sectors transition into low carbon models, every job has the possibility or a potential to be greener. So if you are a person who's got interests in other areas, it doesn't mean you cannot tap into the, I don't know, the green project, let's call it. Okay, it's still, you can still be a finance officer, you can still be an HR, you can still have all of these different roles. You can still be a manager in just a more greener company, you know, or facilitate these changes in companies that you are, to have a lower carbon footprint. So I'd like to end on that note. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for explaining everything, how the students can do, how we can save the mother earth. So I think my question, we'll start the question answer session, and students have already put so many questions, and I think some of the panelists have already answered them as well. But still, I will I'll read the questions, and I want our panelists to answer these questions. So one, Dhawant is asking, does MBBS comes under green jobs in India? Any panelist can take that question. He's asking, does MBBS comes under green jobs in India?
Should I try to answer?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, please.
So MBBS, you become a doctor, you become a medical professional, and given the fact that today climate change, one of the key impacts is the spread of diseases to new areas. So once you complete your MBBS, and as part of an MBBS, there's a course that you will pursue, which is called preventive health and medicine, right? So that's something you follow. You can also pursue a specialization in that, which is basically look at what can be done to prevent suffering, to prevent the new suffering that's happening because of environmental degradation and climate change. So from that logic, if you pursue medicine and you have, like, you know, the feeling for working for the environment, you can make it into a green job as well.
Thank you, sir. So one is asking, from Gorhat, he's asking, what factors are mainly responsible for recent floods in Bangladesh and Sehat? Which countries are responsible for this, and Bangladesh or the other developing countries or developed countries which are polluting the earth? So that's a sustainability and environment question. I think, sir, you will be the best to answer that. If Fawzia ma'am is there, she can also answer. Yeah, sir. Yeah, I think ma'am is traveling, so she can't, sir. Please take up that question.
So the question basically asks about this huge problem, the huge flood that is we're facing right now in the northeast of the country. And of course, definitely climate change is directly linked. You can't blame the neighboring countries immediately because the climate change is caused by something called global warming. The focus there is on the word global. So it's a global phenomenon. So monsoons in a country don't originate from just outside a country or just around the country. They come from far away. Monsoon rains come from far away. And where they originate, if you have nations who are polluting or who are doing any kind of activities that are upsetting the global climate system, especially the global north, there's large amount of carbon emissions that are being generated from the global north, which means the Western countries. That certainly disturbs the pattern and trend of monsoon movement of winds, and that certainly impacts and kind of changes how much water will fall, how much rainfall will take place because of the monsoons. So by that logic, it's not necessary that the impacts are the cause is around itself. Sometimes you could have a problem polluting in one part of the world, and it could have an impact on a different part of the world. That's what it's called global warming, and that's what leads to climate change. So therefore, we need to check the huge carbon emissions that the Western countries are making right now. We need to ensure that we're able to control these carbon emissions and shift to renewable energy if we have to stop floods from happening. Having said that, we also need to look at how our cities are being planned, how the cities are being designed, what kind of urban planning is taking place, because in the future now, because climate change is here to stay, we must be mindful of climate change when we develop, when we do any kind of development activity, including urban planning. One last bit I can add there. there is a new trend now that we have been able to identify as part of climate change. Research is still ongoing, I can share right now. It's called IST, which stands for High Intensity Short Duration Rainfall. So we now know for sure, and of course models are being working out to predict how this is going to happen. But to some extent, we are not sure that one key impact of climate change is going to be high intensity, that means too much, and short duration rainfall. So what it really means is that the water that was to fall from the sky in the period of 1 month as rainfall is now going to fall in just about 2 hours or 3 hours. Recently, the Delhi airport saw this. There was a Delhi airport got flooded. Other parts of the country and the world are also seeing this. So therefore, we need to be mindful of this while we plan and be prepared for this. So climate adaptation, again, a big sector of green jobs is actually working on climate adaptation. How do we adapt to climate change?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sakshi Singh is asking, ma'am, what does woman-friendly architecture means? So I think Priyanka, ma'am, it is for you.
Yes, when we talk about any profession, we see there is still a gender bias in our society, in our country. And I have seen few of my students who are girls, they come and tell me, especially when they are in Odisha, Jharkhand, Bihar. So they come and approach me, ma'am, we are facing lots of challenges because when we are trying to explain the laborers or the contractors, they are not willing to listen to us. But the same thing, even our junior says they are ready or willing to listen to him. So that is a very much difficulty, a big difficulty. The women architects, female architects are still facing in our country as well as in other countries. So how the architecture can be more woman friendly as a profession as well as when they are the users. Because when we are designing any space, architecture is designing a space, right? So when we are designing any space, the first thing that we teach is design not for you. Don't think you are going to get a big award for it or you are a big name for it. You design for the persons or people who will be using that space. Once they are satisfied, they are comfortable, then that is the biggest award one architect is achieving. So when we are designing the space or an area like a city or a neighborhood, so we have to think about the users like women if they are using, children, elderly friendly, it should be elderly friendly. So when it is comfortable for all, so we usually skip women. When we are planning, we take into account a child, children or elderly friendly, but the woman criteria is somewhat not taken into account because there are many spaces which are women oriented. We have to think about them. Like for a small example, in a work, in an institution, a woman is coming and spending almost 6 to 8 hours or more than that. So what about her small children who are at home? So if we can take care of the creche facility in that institute or around that institute, her working place, then lots of her problems will be managed and her efficiency would be increased to a greater extent. So she will be benefited, her family will be benefited, even the institution who is hiring her, they will be benefited from that single person. So the moment even the washrooms which are there, they should be very safe and clean. There are different stages of women, especially when after 40s, they are facing so many biological changes. So those things are not taken into account. We can take care of these changes through architecture and make them more women friendly. So that is what we are trying to teach our students also. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. One more question. Harsimrat Kaur is asking, ma'am, architecture is in which line? Is it in green line or some other line?
It is in all lines.
So,
and green is very, very important because green is a very important parameter in any field we take, any profession, any study we take. Like environmental studies, it has been included in any profession, in any curriculum. That is very important. So green is a very important criteria, because when we talk about any subject in which we teach in architecture, green is a major component of all the subjects, whether it is history, whether it is urban planning, whether it is psychology, whether it is services like air conditioning to plumbing, any services, right? Landscape design, we have interior design. So anything, all, even structure. So everything has a component of green, and architecture is incomplete without it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So one more question they are asking, could we get these training and coursing through online only? Because I think the students and college students, even the school students, they have become very habitual. I will say that for the past 2 years, they have been sitting inside their homes and they're having classes online and everything. So now they're preferring, I think most of us prefer to work from home now. So I think work from home situation is there. So thank you for sharing. I think sir has shared the UG program where the students can find. So you have the link also. So is the program online, sir? These training and online thing is there. You can tell them.
Last 2 years, thanks to the pandemic, it has been online. Now, of course, we are going into an offline classroom mode. But from time to time, there is definitely a big interest, and we do offer online courses as well. So for 5 days or 3 days on various topics, including from building awareness to learning about rainwater harvesting and so on.
Since most of our students are coming from Darjeeling, Tamil Nadu, so is there a hostel facility there? Can they stay there? Or
Certainly,
something like this?
yes.
There?
It's a fully residential campus. In fact,
Okay.
most of our students are right now from the Northeast and South India.
Okay. Yes, South India, we have a lot of students coming from Darjeeling, Tamil Nadu, various parts of Karnataka. So they are here with us. Even Punjab also has joined. So they're asking that can they come to Delhi and stay there at Jindal University? So I think,
certainly, yes, they can do that.
Okay. So thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. I think these are the questions only we have taken, and I thank all my panelists for taking their precious time out and sharing their experiences with our students. And thanks to all the teachers for coordination and support we got from all the schools from different states of India for joining us with their students. So thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am, for staying with us. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, hope you have reached Cochin.
I have just boarded the flight.
Okay.
Another 3 hours.
All right, ma'am. All right. Bon voyage.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.